Um, I don't know how today's live stream is going to go, but I wanted to explain some things that happened and catch you up on the events of February 13th through probably the week after that. And you may not want your children around for this part or this stream. We'll just have to, I mean, just that's up to you, but probably shouldn't. I mean, it's not going to be graphic, but okay, so many of you know that Caitlin died on February 13th, and many of you don't know why. And, you know, a few comments were out there like, you know, why didn't he tell us? Well, the honest truth is I still don't know to this day what happened. I might get into that. But I felt like it was time to talk to you. I mean, you're my family. I have family, of course, and you're my family as well. So let me just take you to February 13th. So February 13th, our day started off, I took notes. I'm going to be looking at notes a lot. The day started off really good, very happy. Everything was going great. We went to the store to look for Valentine's Day decorations so that the back of the tank would be pretty, because Caitlin wanted to do that. And everywhere we went, we couldn't find like normal cutouts, the things you would, you know, drape across the canopy. And but we did end up buying some flowers for each other because we couldn't agree on one single bouquet, and so we each got one for the other. And that was on both sides of the walkboard during that live stream. We came home and we did the stream with you guys, and she was so comfortable on camera. I was actually very proud of her, because that was one of the things that we were working on, because I wanted her to be comfortable. I know I've been doing it for years, and I know she's super smart, and I just needed her to relax and, you know, just enjoy it. And so what we did all that week was prepare. And, you know, I had suggested to her, why don't you come up with 3 topics you want to discuss or chat, even if it's just a couple minutes each, and that way you'll have something solid, and I'm not just putting you on the spot, because I tend to operate without a script, as you guys, most of you know by now, and if you don't, well, surprise, no scripts here. And that preparation, she had notes, she had ideas, we kind of talked about things, and she even picked the topic for that live stream. She was really excited. She said, you know, pick the top 5 fish and corals you love, because love is Valentine's, and it just makes sense. And I said, that's a great idea, I love it, let's do it. So we had a really nice stream with you guys. She talked to many of you. Many of you guys were really accepting her, which was, you know, very nice, because she was a huge part of my life. Then after the stream was over, you know, I went and put away all the things that have to do with the live stream, and we ended up cleaning the house together. I mean, I know this is all mundane stuff, but I don't know, I just want to share it with you because I want to kind of give you a picture of the day and why it's so darn shocking. We had just got the shower remodeled the week before, or earlier that week, and so the dust was everywhere. So we were in the bedroom cleaning off the dressers and taking turns with the stuff, you know, the cleaning supplies, and just putting things away and making it nice for each other. And then after that, I think we oh yeah, we hung up the urchins that were in the kitchen over the wall above the kitchen. And that picture was on Instagram, if you guys hadn't seen it yet. It's the same urchins that are on Spock. We went to Target and got some more. And I remember, because of the live stream, I'd moved my table, my famous carpet table, out of the living room, and I jammed it into the kitchen. And she just hopped up on there to do the urchins. And while she was working up there, you know, I stood by her side to make sure she was safe. And then, you know, I said, you know, I think these urchins need to be affixed to the wall with a screw, not with nails. And so I got the drill and some screws. And when I tried to get up there, she says, no, I want to do it myself, which I was like, okay. And so she hung each of those urchins herself, and she was very proud of herself. And then she came back down, completely normal, nothing weird going on. We, I think around that, you know, after we got that done, we started cooking dinner together, and she was making one part, I was making the other. And because that darn table was in the kitchen, I don't know if I moved it there or she put it there. I think I had shoved it more out of the way so we could walk through the kitchen, because it's kind of narrow. And she was sitting cross-legged on the kitchen, on that carpet table, frying some pierogies. And I was just like, I kind of laughed, and she goes, I love this. I think I'm going to cook like this from now on. And I was like, just don't burn your legs. I mean, your legs are in front of you instead of under you, and something could spatter. And she was like, no, I'm fine. And I was making meatballs and gravy that we got from IKEA, and we were putting this all together, and it was gonna be a nice little dinner. And then while it was, I guess, simmering or something, we went outside to play with Jack. Now, we have been needing the gate on the yard for some time, and I just hadn't had time to deal with it. And so I told her a couple days earlier, I said, I have an idea. Why don't I go to Home Depot and get a sheet of plywood and block off that area so that way Jack can play and we don't have to worry about her running into the street. And she said, that's a great idea. Why don't you go do that? Which I did. I installed the board and I screwed it on nice and tight. And now she could run loose, no leash, which was amazing. She can outrun anyone. And if you try to hold her leash and run with her, you can't. She's too fast. So now she could bolt across the yard. She loved it. She's having a great time. We had a glow-in-the-dark ball that we were throwing, and when Jack would grab that ball in her mouth and run, you just saw this glowing mouth in the pitch darkness just running through the yard. And Caitlin was smiling from ear to ear, and she says, I love this. I can't wait to see Jack playing in the snow tomorrow, because the big snowstorm was coming. And snow was really important to her. She's a New York girl. She loved the snow. And I had told her, I said, here in Texas, where I live, we get 1 inch of snow 1 day a year. That's it. And there's just no snow. It's nothing. I mean, it's pretty. You enjoy it for a few hours, and it's gone. And this storm promised us 5 to 7 inches of snow. And I told her, this is legit snow. I mean, I know it's not like Alaska or Canada or these places, or even up north where they have monster snow. But we were going to have some really good snow for a few days, and it was super exciting. They even said there'd be more snow on Wednesday. So I mean, it was coming. And she was excited about this snow, and she couldn't wait to see Jack play in it. Came back inside, and we had our dinner. We were watching a movie, and halfway into the movie, we had paused it for whatever reason, and she says, my head is really hurting. And I was like, all right, well, do you want me to get you an ice pack? And she suggested I give her something stronger, but then she didn't take it. And we took her blood pressure, and it was up, but it wasn't crazy high. It was time for a blood pressure pill. And she said she'll take that pill in a few minutes. So in the meantime, I gave her an ice pack. And as I walked away, I just kind of looked over my shoulder to check on her, and her head slumped forward. And of course, I rushed back to her, and then she went into a huge seizure that lasted like 40 seconds. And there was a few more breaths, and she was basically gone. I couldn't tell if she was breathing shallowly or if she was, I couldn't tell. And I thought at first I'd throw some clothes on, shoes on her and a blanket or a thick jacket and get her to the hospital. And then I realized the hospital was 6 minutes away, and the EMTs could be here in less time, bringing the hospital with them. So I called 911. They showed up. 7 guys barreled through the door. I had Jack locked in the bedroom, so there'd be no problems with all the activity. And they tried everything to revive her, and nothing worked. And then they took her to the hospital after 25 minutes, and I guess in the ambulance kept trying. And then I assumed the hospital tried as well. They wouldn't let me in. They told me to wait in the truck. So I waited outside, and finally the doctors told me to come inside, and through a nurse, they said, come inside, talk to the doctor in the family room. And I knew that was horrible news. I mean, I'm sitting in this tiny room, 3 chairs, no windows, just a single door. And I'm just expecting the worst, or possibly they'll say she's in a coma, a thread of hope. And when the doctor came in with a couple of people, whoever they were, maybe they're taking notes, I don't know. He just asked what had happened, and then after I said, what I had observed, he told me at this point it's a mystery. We don't know what happened. The medical examiner will have to decide. And he said, but I have a feeling it was instant. I feel like she had no pain because she never revived. So this all happened 3 weeks ago today. So it's very fresh. It's very hard. And I'm not crying for views. I'm sharing the story with you, and I didn't know how I'd react. I didn't know if I'd be rock solid or crying the whole time or what, but the reality is Caitlin and I had a relationship for many years, mostly over the phone, and because we lived so far apart. And I always felt like we'd be great together. And I told her, that I thought she should move in with me. And of course, she didn't want to ruin a great relationship, a great friendship. She said, I don't want to risk losing you. And I just said, well, 50% of marriages end in failure. So, I mean, those people are still getting married. Why don't we try, instead of limiting our opportunity for happiness, we could be happy together, or we could just be cautious, But the bottom line was, I wanted her to want to come here. I did not want to convince her or talk her into it, no matter what. And she, gave it thought. This all happened early 2020, where we were talking about this. I'd visited her in November 2019 in New York, and then, in the early months of 2020, we were just, doing our thing, being friends on the phone. And she was, in March, she said, I'm ready. I want to move in with you. But then COVID hit, and so we waited. And New York was locked down. I didn't know if I could even get in to bring my truck in with Texas license plates, to pick up a girl and a dog. But we waited. And then last summer, I got the horrible news that my mother was dying of cancer. And so we held off again, and we waited. And my mother died very rapidly. So she died 6 months ago, and Caitlin died 3 weeks ago. So I've had a double whammy over the last 6-7 months. It's been really, really hard. And all throughout that, I tried to focus on work and, focus on YouTube. And, of course, talk to her daily because she was my girl. So we quietly moved in together in September. I drove across the country, picked her up, brought her back. And we didn't do a big announcement on Facebook, like in a relationship, because we wanted to just have an organic relationship. We didn't need the world to know. It wasn't a secret, it just wasn't broadcast. And you guys noticed that she was showing up more and more on the episodes, on the different shows. Sometimes she chimed in from the side. Sometimes I could convince her to come on camera. And all throughout that time that she was here, we just were making the house our home. And, I'd lived here for a long time, and it just felt like a house. I didn't feel connected to it, which is crazy. I make the payments, but I was just like, it's a house. It's where I live. And once she came here, everything changed. The whole place felt like home. She started doing all of her stuff, like girls do. She'd put in her decorations. We went shopping all the time. We spent a ton of money. And whatever she wanted, I was like, add to cart. Pretty much bought anything she wanted. I mean, there's a few things I didn't get. There's a few things were put in a cart, and we never quite hit the submit credit card information. But a lot of stuff was bought. And there was a lot of things that she got done with a lot of ideas of what we wanted to do in the future. And she was immersed in my life in a way no one has ever been. And she jumped into the business with me. She wanted to be helpful there. She didn't want to do anything that would cause any problems. She wanted to be helpful with the live streams. She actually would prepare the room a little bit in advance. While I hadn't even got up yet, she'd already cleared off this table that I used for the show, and maybe put some decorations on the walkboard the night before, and just kind of generally took care of things. It was really, really nice. And to be honest, with her gone, I don't want to do anything because we did everything together. And it's just so hard. I mean, I don't even want to work on my tank, It's just like, that's what we were doing together. I know it's my tank. It's been my tank for forever. And yet, once her arm was down in the tank and she's pulling out snail shells or cleaning the glass, it's like what we did together. And I know some people that in the past would tell me, my spouse and I shared this, but now that they're gone, I'm getting rid of my tank. And now I finally kind of understand that feeling, even though I'm not doing that. But it's just I'm sharing with you my feelings. So, Sunday night, well, I don't know. I think that's pretty much everything. I got home Sunday morning at 5 in the morning from the hospital. And I'd spoken with her mother. And her mother wanted Caitlin shipped back to New York, where she could see her one more time. And Caitlin's desire was to be an organ donor, as well as to be cremated and then placed in a reef out in the ocean. So Sunday, I'm dealing with all these feelings, and you can imagine all the feelings I went through, and the world didn't even know. I knew, her mother knew, and maybe 3 very close friends knew, and that was it. I just had to sit on this. because I needed her to let her family know what was going on. And then finally, I went to sleep that night. And Jack did get to play in the snow on Sunday, and I wish Caitlin had seen it because she would have loved it. Then, during the night, while I was sleeping, the power went out around 2 in the morning, and it came back on. The only reason I know is because Apex Fusion gives me an alert. And then I got up around 8 o'clock, and the power was out again. And I thought, well, let me go check on the tanks. And Jack's following me around the room. And for a minute, I'm not thinking about Caitlin. I'm just kind of like, now what? And I noticed that none of my battery backups are doing anything for the Vortec pumps. So I said, all right, let me go turn on the generator. So I bundled up. Now, the snowstorm hit Sunday. When I took Jack to play in the snow on Sunday, it was 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that is Celsius, but it's cold, okay? Monday morning when I'm outside, I believe the temperature was 6 degrees Fahrenheit. And I bundled up and I went outside, and I was realizing to myself, I have not tried to start my generator once in 6 months. And the rule of thumb when you own a generator is to turn it on once a month for 20 minutes. Just keep everything running, make sure it's happy. And I was thinking, how stupid is that? And then I was thinking, well, I've been really distracted by this wonderful woman in my life. And I'm not surprised I didn't check the generator once. So now I need it to turn on. And I flip all the switches, I open the gas valve, and I pull on the rope 30, 40 times, and it won't start. I call Bobby, who's my tank sitter and my super mechanic and electrical friend. He knows everything. And I was like, Bobby, how do I get this generator to start? And he said, spray some carburetor cleaner into it. So I warmed up in a cold house. And I took off the cover where there's a filter pad. And there you should see a carburetor. But instead, there was like this metal plate in my way. And I thought, how do I spray anything in there with that metal thing in the way? And it looked like it was like permanently melted in with the way they melted the plastic. You couldn't like pop it off. So I just sprayed at that thing, and I pulled on the rope another 30 times, and it wouldn't start. And then I called her mother, and I said to Caitlin's mother, I need to put something out to the world. She's got 1,000 friends. They're going to know what's going on. They need to know what's happening. They need to know what happened. And so I sat in a quiet, powerless house, tank just on standby, so to speak, and I typed up my message and grabbed 3 pictures and posted on my Facebook wall. And I told the world that Caitlin had died, and then I talked about, why she was so important to me. And as the messages flooded in of shock and dismay, I still had to go deal with this generator and deal with the tank, which I did not want to deal with at that point. So I went out there and got my hands and knees and looked at this carburetor one more time, and I could see this little hole above the metal plate, and I was like, sprayed some stuff in there, turned on the first pull. I was like, got it, I have a generator, thank God. The tank is now going to be okay. And the generator has a choke on there that's designed to get it started, and then you're supposed to flip it over to run it at 100%. Every time I tried to open the choke, or turn the choke off, I guess you'd say, the generator turned off. And I thought, well, that's no good. So I realized I can have some power, and so I just turned it on and assumed it was okay, but it wasn't like going to be able to handle a lot of stuff. That was my thought. So the generator's running, the tank is running. My generator powers the entire fish room. I mean, there's outlets everywhere, and they're all tied into that generator. So it's just a matter of turning things on or off. So I turned off the algae turf scrubber. I made sure the metal halides weren't on. I just wanted flow, and I wanted heaters. My house was around 60 degrees, 58 degrees. And so my tank had 3 heaters in the sump, and I added 2 more. So now I had 5 300-watt heaters in the sump to combat the water temperature trying to drop, and to compete with the coldness of the house itself. That normally would be 70 degrees, was now lower than 60 and heading worse. In the meantime, my tank kept beeping. There was a lot of beeping happening, and I was on the phone with my friend Jessie, who's been my best friend for probably 15 years, and she was like, "What is that annoying beep? Can't you turn that off?" I said, "I think it's a UPS just telling me that my power is dirty, from the generator." And so I walked into the fish room, And I realized it wasn't the UPS at all. It was the Abiz pump. The driver had on the message warning, and as you just stared at it, the word warning would go away and it'd say low voltage. And I thought, well, okay, what does that mean? So I opened up my Apex Fusion and looked at the power monitoring you can see, and it showed for the 832s, which is the newer, more modern power bricks with 8 outlets, it said that my tank was getting 92 volts instead of 110 to 120. And I thought, well, okay, that explains the beeping. So I turned the Abiz down to a slower speed so it wouldn't need as much power, and the beeping stopped. And the tank was running, the vortex were running, the water was heating, and there was flow. And then after 15, 20 minutes, it started beeping again. And I went to look and it said low voltage, and I checked Apex again. Now it said I was 87 volts. And of course, I tried to slow the Abiz down a little bit more, but not too much. If you turn it off too much, it just doesn't push water, So I think I took it from like 80% down to, I don't know, 60%. And the beeping continued to happen, and as I watched, each time I logged into the Apex Fusion, I saw that it was now down to 82 volts. It was just getting worse and worse. So I called Bobby again. I said, Bobby, apparently my voltage is bad. He goes, it's that generator. It can't run with choke. That's the problem. And I said, well, what's the solution? And he said, well, you might need to rebuild the carburetor. And I looked at the clock, and it was 4:45 on Monday afternoon, and the entire city is shut down because of the snowstorm, because it's so cold and the roads are completely snowed up, iced up, and no one knows how to drive here because no one ever sees snow here. They just literally don't. Every year that 1 inch of snow causes so much chaos because we don't have the infrastructure for it. We are not prepared for it. We just know it happens. And people don't understand. You don't use brakes and you don't go fast. It's a simple rule, but people don't know it. And I will drive past police cars that can't stay on the road because I know how to drive on snow, but that's because I'm half Swiss. So, I know about snow. But I said to him, what can we do? And he says, well, the problem is parts for that carburetor are going to be only at a lawn and sprinkler irrigation store, and they're closed. I said, can we get anything from O'Reilly's? Because, they sell stuff for carburetors. And he says, no. But in the meantime, he had an idea. He said, let me check Amazon for the rebuild kit, and let me look at the instructions and see if we need this very certain part, because he was sure I needed it. He says, if we need that part, we are completely screwed. Yes, you can get it at Amazon, you can get it here, but you're not going to have it today. And I said, well, will the generator make it through the night when my voltage has already dropped down this much? And he said, the problem is when your voltage drops, your amperage doubles. So all those power supplies, those black bricks, are going to start exploding. He says, because they're going to get super hot. So I'm thinking, oh my God, we got to do something. I said, can you cobble it together with silly putty? Is there anything you can do just with things you own? And he said, the thing is, this is where gasoline goes, and it needs to be something that can be used, that gasoline can't destroy. And I'm like, all right. So he texted me back. He says, good news. We don't need any other parts. I'm going to take it apart, clean it, put it together, and hope it turns on. I said, all right. So I hooked up the trailer in my truck. I put the generator in the back of my truck. My neighbor from across the street helped me load it in. And I drove on the roads in the area where there was no snow or ice. There was like 2 ruts where, I don't know, 1,000 cars had been today. And I was driving to his house, but it was getting near sunset. And I knew by the time he's done fixing it, it'll be pitch dark and colder, and it's just going to be bad. And that's exactly what happened. So he rebuilt it. He cleaned it all out. He put it all together. We turned it on, and now it was running really well. If anything, it was running in overdrive. And he said to me, well, that's weird. And I said, what does that mean? He says, well, it's designed to run at a certain speed, and then when there's a big draw, like something needs power, it will go into overdrive to keep up. He says, it's already in overdrive, and it shouldn't be doing that. So I said, but it'll run? And he's like, yeah. So I came home with it, and I got my neighbor to come over again to help me unload it. I pulled around to the side of the house, and I hooked it up to the power cord and got power to the fish room again. And it was probably, and I also brought a heater inside that no one should use in their house. Okay, I'm just telling you right now, I just did something to survive, and it's not the smartest thing, but I've been around this heater my whole adult life, and I've never had any problems or headaches or anything. But basically, you have a propane tank, and there's this thing that looks like a big sunflower that you screw onto the tank, and it puts out a red glowing flame, or not a flame, but just the thing glows bright red. And it's used for construction sites, it's used in workshops, it's a thing. And the idea is that if you bump it, it turns off automatically to save your life and to stop a fire. And I brought this darn thing inside my living room, and turned it on just to bring the temperature of the room up 1 or 2 degrees. And I would run it for an hour, hour and a half, and then turn it off. And then 3-4 hours later, I'd turn it on for another hour. And like I said, there was no surprises, nothing bad happened. There was no headaches. I didn't watch, I don't know, maybe pH dropped in my tank from CO2. I don't know. But my house is all electric, and there's no other option to get heat in here with no power. My best friend told me, hey, make sure you turn on all your vent fans, like the one on the stove, the one in the bathrooms, to pull out whatever that thing is exuding. I said, I can't because they're electric. And she was like, oh yeah. So she says, please be careful. And I was being careful. I had power from 7 p.m. to about 11 o'clock, and so I spent a lot of time on Facebook reading all the comments from everyone that was in shock. And a lot of nice comments about Caitlin. Made me really happy to see this, and makes me so mad that she never read these things herself. I really hate, and I've been talking about this for 6 months, I really hate that whenever someone dies, we say this amazing stuff about them after they're gone. We need to be saying that to each other now while they're alive. They need to hear it. We need to hear it. I need to hear it, because that stuff helps with your self-esteem, your day-to-day living, your whole belief system. And it drives me absolutely crazy that these, there was 1,000 beautiful things said about her, and if she had read those, her self-esteem would have been up 1,000 points, easily. 1,000 points. It would have helped her with so much on so many levels, because she always had self-doubt. She always had, she was battling some stuff, right? Like we all are. And, but, I loved her. The true definition of my love for her was unconditional. It didn't matter what she said or did. I just loved her to death. And I don't mean to death. I mean, just loved her insanely much. And when something was going wrong or whatever, she'd just say, I don't understand how you can be so nice to me. And I just told her, I said, I treat you the way I want to be treated. I've done that my whole life. And I'm going to keep doing that. So, whatever you throw at me, it doesn't matter. And she really was learning what it's like to be with someone that loves you that much. And it was definitely changing her, because people were saying in those comments and previously, there was some messages earlier, people saying, you guys are so happy together. And a lot of you on the stream would say things, about how you make a cute couple or whatever. And yeah, but the fact is that we were making each other happy every single day. And COVID or not, we were together nonstop, and it was awesome. And before she was even here, we dated over the phone. we would watch movies together. We'd both be on Netflix at the exact same time. We'd pause our shows till the words synced up, and then we'd say go, and we would just watch a movie together. And maybe we'd say something to each other, maybe we wouldn't. We would just enjoy the movie. And if somebody got a little bit ahead, that person would pause theirs for a half a heartbeat so that the audio synced up again. And it was really nice. Her not being around at all now is very hard for me, because she has been around, whether it was a phone call away or living here, for so many years that, last night I had to call a friend. I just was losing it again, and because I couldn't call her like I would always do. So back to the generator. At 11 o'clock, the generator blew up. The lights over my tank were flashing. It was like a disco effect, lightning effect. I can't, strobe effect. I don't know. Something really bad was happening, which it shouldn't have been doing. Maybe it was arcing. I don't know what. And then you heard bang, bang outside. And when I went, and the tank went dark. It's 11 o'clock at night. It's 1 degree outside, which apparently is minus 18 Celsius. And I went outside in my jacket and gloves and a flashlight, and the generator smelled cooked. It just smelled bad. And I pulled on the rope, and usually when you pull, there's resistance, and like a lawnmower, you pull and then it retracts. This thing pulled, and you just heard something spin. And I knew the generator was done. There was nothing bringing this thing back to life. And it's 11 o'clock at night, and I have no other recourse, and I have no chance of knowing when there's going to be any power. Nothing. That's it. Everything I've put in place for an emergency is used up and no longer available. So I got on Facebook and I posted that I needed a generator, and I knew it was a ginormous Hail Mary, because 3.2 million people in Texas didn't have power, and they all needed generators. And I felt who am I to need one when there's people out? I mean, I need it for an aquarium. Everyone needs it to live. I was just like, it's pointless. And I was on the phone with Jessie again, and she said, what are you going to do? And I was looking at my tank, and I was sitting in this chair right here. I said, I guess I'll watch my reef die too. I mean, this was literally the least amount of hope I've ever had in my life. I was just like, it's done. There was hopeless. And I'm never like that. I'm very optimistic. I'm very positive, and I tend to, prep for everything. And this thing was beyond. Oh, I didn't even mention, during the daytime when my generator was running, I drove down the street to get more gasoline. And when I got to the gas station was closed because they had no power to run the pumps or to run the transaction. So I couldn't even buy gasoline. So I came back to the house safely. And then I tried a different direction, went a different way, and found a place that did have gas. And I bought some gas for the generator. But I mean, this entire area was without power. And they were telling us that we'd have rolling brownouts or something, where apparently you'd have power for an hour, then it's off for 2 hours, then it comes on for an hour, and then it's off for 2 hours. And that was what we were promised. That's not what happened. My house was without electrical power for 27 hours in a row. And the house itself cooled off more and more. And I was just using the generator to keep the tank alive and plug in enough stuff to be able to use Apex Fusion to check on the tank and connect to the world. I mean, I could use LTE, but I mean, if I could keep my modem going and my my switch, then I could still communicate with the tank and check on things and see tank temperature. So it's 11 o'clock at night, 11:30, and my friends actually started pushing out messages everywhere. Mark needs a generator. He needs one for his reef, and I mean, it went every direction to a ton of people. It went to people that were in the hobby. It went to people that were war veterans. I mean, it went everywhere to all kinds of people. And I just sat here. And people started calling and texting. And then one guy said, I'm in Frisco. I can lend you a generator. And I was like, that's great. But the problem is you're an hour and a half away on a good day. And it's midnight now. I mean, it's 1 degree outside. The roads are completely iced up. For me to drive there would probably take me 3 hours each direction if I got there safely, and nothing went wrong and no one hit me. And I also thought, if I leave, then Jack will be alone in a house with no power and could freeze to death. The tank's going to die, Jack's going to die, I'm stuck on the side of the road, I break my only vehicle, I'm stuck in a ditch. I mean, I was thinking the responsibility of what I had to take care of what was under my roof, and I did not feel safe driving anywhere far under those conditions in the middle of the night, especially a day and a half after Caitlin had died. I was emotionally exhausted, I was mentally exhausted, I was physically exhausted, and to think I might be on the road for maybe 6 hours trying to get back, and by the time I got back, that tank would have been dead. 6 hours is too long for this size. It just can't work. I need power, and that's just the case. So I had a few more people reach out to each other, and one of them said, you should call Dave, who was a club member of DFW Mass. So I called him and it went to voicemail. I sent him a message on Facebook, which went unread. And I just thought, and then he called me back. And he says, Mark, I've got 2 generators in the garage. One's used and one's brand new in the box. You're welcome to use them. And I thought about it. He's 2 miles away. I think I can drive 2 miles there and back safely and get these generators. And I might need both because I didn't know what size they were. I just knew I needed enough power to run this tank, the cube, the frag tank that has fish in it that deserve to live. The reef itself was 74 degrees. The frag tank was down to 71.8. And so I drove over to his house with my truck and my trailer again. And he just pointed to where they were, and they were buried deep in his garage under a ton of stuff. I had to move a bunch of stuff out of the way to get to them, and I got the first one, and it didn't have a handle on it, didn't have wheels on it. It was literally the generator in a frame that was never assembled, I guess. And I picked it up, and I could hear the gas sloshing in it, and I dragged it down the driveway on the snow, so it kind of was like a sled. And I got into the trailer, and then I came up the hill again to look at the other generator, and he said I could take both, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. And when I tried to move the other one, it was really heavy, and I said to him, is there any chance this is a bigger one, or am I just exhausted from that last one? He goes, oh no, it's bigger. And I was thinking, I might need to open your brand new generator and use it. And he says, that's fine. He says, was the other one? I said, when did you run the other one? He says, oh, it's been at least 3 years. And then he asked me, was there gas in it? I was like, oh yeah. He goes, yeah, you do not want to even try that one. Use the brand new one. So I told him, thank you very much. I hauled that giant box down the hill on the snow. I leveraged it into the trailer. I came home. I beat on my neighbor's door again. Now it's basic. No. I did that one by myself. 1 in the morning, I had the trailer up against the garage door. I lifted the door up manually, and I slid it out of the trailer in the box, and I unpacked it. And in the darkness of the garage, I rebuilt, or I put together this brand new generator. I had to put the wheels on it, I had to put the handle on it, had to put oil in it, had to put fuel in it. And by 3 o'clock, I had power going to the reef tank again. And I told Dave, I said, I don't know if you saw what I posted on Facebook on Monday morning. He says, no, I haven't been on Facebook in a while. I said, well, I just lost my girlfriend, and then I was losing my reef, and then you came out of nowhere with this miracle. And he was just, he didn't even know what even to say. And I just wanted him to know how much I appreciate what he was doing for me. It was massive. It wasn't some little thing. And I got power to the tank, and then I left again. I must have left the house 10 times that day. Jack kept thinking, why do you keep leaving me? And I went to go get gas one more time. And I filled up all my gas cans. And when I came back, I was cold. I was tired. I just wanted to take a nap for a couple of hours. So I set my timer for 5:30 a.m. So I figured that'll be about the time it needs to have more gas poured into it. But for now, all I had in the brand new generator was the last of the gas I had in my gas can, because all the rest of the gas was in the generator that blew up. And I just wasn't really comfortable siphoning out gas out of that one into anything in the dark, 1 degree temperature. Who knows what might have even happened to that fuel when the darn thing, I call it exploded. It didn't actually explode, but what if something surged back into the tank and polluted the fuel? I didn't know. I just wanted clean gas in the brand new generator. So I came home, put the gas on the side of the house, in a safe spot, and I crawled into bed. And the house was about 58 degrees. I had that heater on in the living room again for another hour or so, turned it off, and Jack and I were under 3 covers and took a nap. My alarm went off at 5:30, and I woke up, and I did not want to get out from under the covers. I was warm, and I knew I had to go out into the cold. And I'm looking at my watch; it says 0 degrees outside. 0. So after 20 minutes, I finally said, I got to get up. And I put on clothes. I walked into the living room. I'm putting on my coat, and I'm picking up my gloves, and the generator sputtered out of gas. And I was like, see, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it was going to run out at 5:30. So I went outside, and I put every drop of gas I could get into that tank, which held about 3 gallons. And then I came back inside, and I went back to sleep. And around 9:30, I woke up, and we still had, tank was still alive. And the frag tank was a little colder. The heater in there is not big enough, but it had power. It had flow. And I think around 11 o'clock Tuesday, the power came on for about an hour and a half. And I thought, man, maybe they'll just leave it on, because we didn't do the rolling thing. We just literally had no power. So they owed us some solid power for a while. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice if they took care of us? And no, after a couple hours, an hour and a half or something, like, power went out again. And part of what I was told, I don't know if it's fact or fiction, okay, but I was told that the power, when it comes back on, it surges so hard because everyone's house is trying to turn on heat that it actually was blowing up stations and stuff. Like they couldn't restore power fast enough. And then hearing on the news there wasn't enough natural gas to run things, that things were freezing over and the turbines couldn't spin and all this stuff. It was a whole thing. I'm going to take 1 second here. I'm watching this thing beeping a red light at me. So I need to somehow get power to that receiver. And then we'll keep talking. But let me figure out, ooh, this is a USB wire. I wonder if I can just USB it from the computer. I've never done that. Huh, cool. All right. So maybe we'll be okay. Hopefully the audio's all right. The power turned on and off during that afternoon. Every time the power came on. Oh, matter of fact, I didn't know the power was on. Okay, so that was another one. So the fish room's running off of a generator, and everything else in the house is off. But I turned on the light switch to the kitchen lights, to the little strip where the table is. And my friend called me and he says, "Hey, are you making coffee yet?" And I said, "I can't make coffee. I can't do anything. I have no power. This house is electric only." And as I'm saying it to him, and the words are pouring out of my mouth because I'm aggravated, I see that light is on. And I'm like, what? And I back up and I head to the bathroom to flip on that light switch. And as I'm doing it, I can hear the heater of my house coming to life. And tears were coming out of my eyes that I was getting electricity again. It meant that we would get some warmth. It meant that the tank was going to be okay. And like I said, so then for about an hour and a half we had power. And the house did warm up. And then it turned off again, and I went back to generator. Then it turned on, and I turned the generator off. Then the power went out again. I turned the generator. I mean, it was on, off, on, off, on, off all day long. Very exhausting. And the good news is that by Tuesday night, I think 7 p.m., power was restored to my neighborhood, and we never lost it again. There was a lot of Texans that didn't have power for 3-4 days. Their houses got down to 40. Some got even less. A lot of pipes burst in homes. A lot of pipes burst in the ground. Our neighborhood didn't have that problem. We got super lucky. I mean, this is not some ritzy neighborhood, okay? We're just a little suburb off of Fort Worth. And our streets, they were dangerous to drive on, but our pipes didn't burst in our homes or in our streets, so we all could open a faucet and have water. Parts of Fort Worth were under a boil water notice. My neighborhood was not. And plus I drink RO water, which I called my supplier. I said, "What's the scoop with boiling water and RODI systems?" Because I want some information on that. So I'll share that with you right quick. The sediment and the carbons catch the big stuff. And then the membrane does all the work. No matter what size micron filters you use, and I always recommend 5 micron. Okay, I've been recommending it forever because they don't clog up prematurely. They do the job. Bacteria that's trying to pass, the reason they tell you to boil the water is because their chlorine level has dropped to a dangerous level, and there's a chance there's bacteria in the water, and if you drink it, you can get sick. So the RO system will remove the bacteria, sort of. What it does is it can either get caught on those filters, or it'll get caught in the membrane, because the membrane's micron, which I never knew this. I don't know why I didn't know it. I never thought of it. It never occurred to me. The micron level of a membrane is 0.001. So as long as the bacteria is bigger than 0.001, it'll get stuck in the membrane and can't get out. So the membrane stops the bacteria. You're safe to drink the water. However, the bacteria can continue to live in the membrane, and it can grow in the membrane, and it could become unhealthy for you later. So the general rule of thumb, if you're in an area where you have to boil your water and you're trying to use your RO system to make water, and so you can keep topping off your tank, so you can make drinking water, so you can, make hot chocolate or tea or, I don't know, Lipton cup of soup or something. After the event is over and things are back to normal, throw away all your filters, throw away your membrane, sterilize the entire system. And there's a product that you can buy called Sanipak, S-A-N-I-P-A-K. And you buy that and you just put that inside the first housing of your RO system after you've thrown away all the filters and the membrane. And you just pour that in, you screw on the housing, and you let the water go through the entire system, and it will sterilize the entire thing. And then you can go ahead and drain it, install all your filters, your new membrane, run it for an hour to get the food grade preservative out of the membrane, and you have a nice safe system again. So that was really nice to know. My neighborhood didn't have that problem, so I haven't had to deal with any of that. And then throughout the week, I just dealt with grief. That the snow finally broke on Friday morning. The temperature had risen to about 36 degrees, 37 degrees, something like that. And I had a friend fly in who spent a week here to just help me with anything. And basically he listened to me complain a lot, complain about missing Caitlin, basically. And he helped me with, get out some simple orders where you guys said, I need Safety Stop or I need Phosphator X or whatever. We did those easy packages, but anything made of acrylic had to wait. I couldn't focus at all. I can barely focus now. So he got here Friday. The snow was pretty much gone by Friday evening. You saw like a little patch of it here and there on like on a lawn or something, but the roads had nothing. I mean, they looked like summer again. That's normal for Texas. You know, it just goes. It does not stick around. And on Saturday morning, I knew that the live stream was coming up, and I knew I wasn't going to do it. And I knew that word had gotten out, and some people were posting on YouTube what happened and what's going on. And so I decided to make that nice little remembrance video that many of you watched. What I think many of you did not do is watch it to the end. So if you never watched the last 20 seconds, you should do it. Because I filmed the tank dark intentionally. I used the candle that Caitlin loved, which is this one right here. It's actually, the flavor is charcoal and black teak, and it smells really nice. And this was a candle she had bought, and so I lit it for that. I had it near the barnacles that she'd purchased as a gift for my birthday. We had the nice bouquet of flowers that Jesse had sent me, so I put them. They arrived like an hour before the video, before I was thinking about making a video. And so I thought, oh, I'll film a little thing and just have a sad thing, a moment for Caitlin that will just release when the live stream would normally happen. And then the music I used is actually called Swimming with Manatees, and it just felt perfect. And I just filmed a random amount of time. I was thinking, should I film it for 33 minutes, because that's 33 years of life? And I thought, nah, it's too long. So I basically filmed like 12 or 13 minutes. And then when I looked at the soundtrack, I just kind of pulled it back, and you could hear the music ending at the exact right spot. It was amazing. And then in the final 20 seconds, you'll see Caitlin with Jack, who she loved dearly. And then you see the scene of her on a hammock in Hawaii with the sound of the ocean, and she just smiles at the camera. It was one of the most beautiful moments. She had sent me this little clip years ago, and I felt like that was the perfect fade out for this wonderful woman that was so important to me. Let me switch gears a little bit on the aftermath of the storm. There's a couple things I did, and I do have a few pictures. If you're just listening to the show, you're going to miss out on some photos. But, and just so you know, I have not been able to look at your comments. I see them happening, and I'm going to read them all, like I always do. But for now, I'm just talking to the camera, and I'm not ignoring you. And I know most of you are just offering support, and I love that. Everyone keeps saying, if there's anything I can do. And the only thing you can do is give me Caitlin back. And no one can do that. So anyway, my generator that blew up was replaced with this one. Whoops, not all of them. Let me just grab one picture. This one here. And that one there was around 3,500 watts, I guess. Yeah. And that got me through the extra day of no power. Then I was at Costco with Ed probably Friday, and I found this generator that I bought. And this one here was $700. It's got a 50 amp circuit on one of these plugs, which is exactly what I wanted. And it also has a couple of 20 amps, but I need the 50. I wanted something ginormous for the fish room, so I don't have to think about it. It uses gasoline, natural gas, or propane. So there's 3 different fuels you can use to make it run. So I bought that, and it was a great price. And it's still new in the box. I haven't opened it yet, but it's definitely going to be where I'm going to go. There's been some discussion about getting a inverter generator because it's better for your electronics. And an inverter generator will probably cost me double the price of what you just saw. I don't know. I mean, someone's going to say, Mark, you're an idiot. But I have been running my tanks off of generators when this happened once or twice a year for so many hours. And I've never lost anything electronic. I've never lost any lights. I've never blown up any, just nothing. Nothing breaks. It may not be the cleanest energy, but you know what? It gets me through, quote unquote, the storm. And then I'm back to normal. But I still had doubts about what was going on with the power. I was still leery because my generator had just blown up. Even though I had a borrowed one here that was brand new, I went to Batteries Plus. I actually called them up, and I told them, I said, hey, did the Locust come through and pick you clean? And it's like, no. I said, I need a bunch of big batteries because my Ecotech batteries Well, I've had them a long time. I replace the batteries in them regularly. And in this case here, I'm going to put this over here. In this case here, they just had not kept up. There was just problems. And I actually called the president of Ecotech because I have his home number. And I called him up and I said, you know how everyone always says if there's anything I can do for you, just ask? And he was like, yeah. I said, well, I saw you say that on my wall because of Caitlin. So I'm coming to you because you're the top of the pyramid. I need to figure out what to do with my Ecotech gear in case this generator fails on me again or the power doesn't come on. And I want to use these big old batteries and I'm having a problem making my Vectra run, which should work. I already knew I couldn't hook up the Abiz. The Abiz needs to be real power because the brain itself is where it changes all the power into DC. So there's no way to like work around that. So for now, I just want to keep the Vectra pumps going on the frag tank and the Anemone Cube, and I want to keep all the Vortex running in all the tanks. And that's the best I can do. And then whatever else I do for if I get the Abiz running, that's a whole other subject. But I said, I just want to get this working. And he was actually helping me troubleshoot. And turns out the booster cable that goes between the battery and the Vectra, that piece had failed at some point. And I have no idea when. I have a feeling it's been broken a long time. And so I got a new one sent out to me that will be hooked up to this bank of batteries. Those are all 12-volt batteries. They are going to go out in the workshop against the wall. And I bought a big extension cord that I'm going to run from those into the fish room. And I'm going to make some kind of a junction box or breakout box where I'm going to connect all the Vortex into it and Vectra pumps and all that. And that way I will have days worth of power before I even have to think about a generator. And so what broke? What did get destroyed during this crazy fluctuation of power, whether it was my generator not putting out enough, to putting out way too much, to the power company turning it off and on and off and on and all that? This 20 amp GFI circuit breaker failed. And it would not stay on. It would just trip. As soon as you turn it on, it would trip. And so I picked up a new one, which is installed. And now every circuit in the fish room is perfectly fine. I may or may not have burned up an EB8. I'm not sure. It was plugged into that circuit, and I thought, because of all the lightning I saw, that it took a massive hit. But it was later that I discovered it was this breaker. So the breaker has been replaced. I will later on today check the EB8, which is this power brick that you plug everything into that all my lights go into. And I'll just see if it's functional or if it's broken. I mean, if it breaks, it's fine. I can always put another one up there. In the meantime, I put up an EB4, which is a more rugged, durable one, but it doesn't have as many outlets. It only has 4 outlets, and so I can't plug everything into it like I normally do. But I didn't lose any livestock during this thing, and people lost their entire tanks. Their tanks got down in the 60s or colder. There was a picture floating around on the web of a tank, a freshwater tank that was just a block of ice. I mean, the fish are just frozen in place. It was insane. There was hundreds of tanks were lost in this storm that hit Texas. And they said on the news that Texas was colder than Alaska, which is insane. Now, people are going to say, Mark, why don't you have a whole house generator? Because I don't have natural gas. If I wanted to have a whole house generator, which I've thought about half a dozen times, it's going to cost between $8,000 and $16,000 to install. I'm going to have one of these giant propane tanks that looks like a Tylenol pill that's on the side of my house, full of propane to run that thing. And then it has to switch over, automatically, and I'm just not set up for any of that. The fact that I lose power one day a year doesn't make me want a whole house generator. Yes, in the middle of the storm, of course I was thinking, God, wouldn't it have been nice? But then when they stopped pumping out natural gas to people because there wasn't enough, you can't run your whole house generator at that point. So had I had a $16,000 whole house generator hooked up to a giant, 200-gallon propane tank, I probably would have been fine for an entire week. Yes, but that is like the prepper from hell. That's a guy that is preparing for Armageddon with the zombies, we knew we were going to have snow. My plans were to play with Jack and drink hot chocolate and enjoy Netflix. It was not going to be anything like what happened here in Texas, and no one was prepared. The infrastructure wasn't prepared. Hobbyists weren't prepared. The police weren't prepared. No one, the government wasn't. It was just awful, and it all happened on the tail end of what had just happened Saturday night, which made it, I don't know, some of my friends said it's just so unfair that you have to deal with all that on top of what happened with Caitlin. And I was like, yeah, the last thing I want to do is think about life support day after day after day. So I was lucky that power came back on after 27 hours and stayed on. I guess that's right. Yeah, it sounds about right. And I was lucky I didn't lose my reef because I was sure I was going to. I mean, that was it. And let's see if I have anything else I want to share with you. I have a note here. Yeah, all that part is covered. Good, I didn't leave anything out. I want to talk about something else that has to do with death. And I want to tell you this now because if you don't know about it, you're going to be really frustrated. And so when Caitlin died, all her passwords went with her. She had her privacy, I had my privacy. She never asked for my passwords, I never asked for hers. I never once wanted to go through her phone. And I remember one time she was unlocking the phone in front of me and she was typing in, because it does a thumbprint, and she was typing in the code, and she looked at me, she goes, "Now you know my code." I said, "No, actually I don't. I saw her tap what looked like 996633. And so I thought, oh, that must be the code. No, it was not. So I am not able to unlock her phone. Couldn't like go in and put a thing on her Facebook or anything. I really just wanted to retrieve her pictures, lots of stuff she had taken with Jack, which, yeah. And the other thing is like her watch. I just bought her a new Apple Watch maybe 2 months ago, and it's 2 millimeters smaller than mine, and it's 3 generations newer, and I really would like to wear her watch. I know it's a woman's watch, and I don't even care. I want to wear it because it was hers. I'm trying to keep her close to me 24 hours a day. And the watch is connected to her phone that I can't unlock. I've talked with Apple, and the only way to apparently get this watch freed up is to get a court order, and I don't know that that's going to happen. So in the meantime, her watch is on my desk, and I plug in her phone every couple of days because she has a couple of timers that go off on it. Every morning at 9 o'clock in the morning, it plays this nice music that was like a wake-up music. I don't even know how she found that, but it's nice. I don't know that I've ever heard it before, and I was like, how do you do that? And it just plays this interesting melody that kind of irritates you awake. It's neat. And so every morning that goes off, makes me think of her. And then every night at 10 o'clock at night, it beeps, and it says on the screen, "Feed the fish." And that was something she set up for me months ago, because we'd be just living our lives and doing things. And I look at the clock, and it's like 11:30. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't feed the fish yet. And I'd look at the tank, and like the lights are about to turn off, or the anemone cubes are already dark. And I thought, man. And so I told her, I got to set a timer. And she just whipped out her phone and set this timer on her phone. And every single night, for probably the last couple of months, it would just beep, and then she would say, "Feed the fish." And I'd go melt some fish food during the next 30-minute window, and at 10:30 I'd drop the food in the tank and everyone would be fed. So I'm doing that because it makes me feel good, and I'm also keeping the beard because she loved it. She just the week of her dying, we had gone to the hairdresser, or it's this place. It's a place that does beards, and we went to this place in Fort Worth. It's really nice, and they dyed my hair and my beard. And she says, "I love it, and if anything, I want it one shade darker, and I will pay for that every month because I just think you look fantastic." And because of that, I'm going to keep doing that in honor of her, at least for now. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the beard forever. I never had one before her, but now I feel like I need to keep it. So, for those that like to give me a hard time, or like, why are you dyeing it, or what are you doing? I'm getting it done professionally, and I'm doing it because she loved it, and it was important to her. And whatever was important to her was important to me. So I'm going to miss her terribly. I'm not sure how I'm going to get over it. I don't think I can. After all during that week, and then the week after that, shipments started coming in. A lot of things she had ordered kept coming in. Like, for example, she ordered these really pretty wall sconces to go by the front door, and those arrived, and I put them together, and hung them on the wall because that's how she wanted it. And then she ordered this mirror, which I hung up because she wanted that way. She wanted certain walls in the house to be a certain color. I'm going to do that, and we have plans for the backyard that I'm going to do as well, because these were things that we were talking about. I've mentioned to some people, we had all these plans, like we did. We had little plans and big plans, but we always had plans. And last night when I went to Home Depot to buy some things, I was so upset that she wasn't there with me to pick things out. And I don't even know how these streams are going to go. I mean, I have a feeling there'll be less tear jerkers, but I didn't want to make you guys wait another week. I felt like you needed to at least hear what little bit I do know. And her mother said, the bottom line is, no matter what the medical examiner says, she's not coming back. And that part's true. So I am just going to be here, online when I can. And I'll be working. I started working 2 days ago, gluing some acrylic stuff together. I'm trying to plow on, and I'll do it. I'm just going to need some time. Let me show you something I got for her. It arrived after the live stream. This is a book called Dancers with Dogs. Caitlin loved dogs, and she loved ballet. And a lot of times people thought she was a ballerina because of her physique. And she showed this to me at one point on Amazon, and I surreptitiously ordered it for her as a gift for Valentine's Day. And then on after the stream, the doorbell rang, Jack barked, of course, and I smuggled in this package. And she says, "What's that?" I said, "It's for you." And she says, "Oh, what is it?" I said, "You won't see it till tomorrow." And I regret that I didn't give it to her that day. I should have just done it. But, that's how that's how I am for Christmas. We open it on Christmas Day. I don't want to open it early. I don't want to tear open the package in advance. So she literally would have loved this book that has all these cute puppies and dogs with all these ballerinas. And it's a really nice story, and you go through here and there's stories about the dogs. And let's see. Anyway, it's really amazing. I'm up to page 74. I'm reading it slowly. I'm just enjoying it. But it's a really nice thing, and I really wish she could have enjoyed it. I wish she could enjoy a lot of things. And she can't. That's pretty much it, guys. I don't really plan to do a Q&A today. I don't think I can handle it. So remember, today is water test Saturday. I will tell you this, because of what happened here in my house and my life, I didn't test my water that day because of what happened with Caitlin. I didn't measure it the next Saturday because Ed was here and I don't know. And then I finally tested, so it'd been 3 weeks, and my alkalinity had dropped and my phosphate had shot up. So I corrected both of those. I buffered the tank up to get the alkaline where it belonged. I topped off the calcium reactor with more media, and I dosed Phosphate RX to knock down the phosphate, and all those things did exactly what I needed. That's why the tank is fine. So if you are not testing your tank, you need to test it. I tell you guys this every week, and a lot of you admit online how you haven't tested, and I don't get it. I mean, we need to test. Unless you went through exactly what I went through, then I understand you didn't test for a couple of weeks, okay? But for the regular day-to-day stuff, you need to test your water. You need to make sure, like Caitlin always said, water tests save lives. So if you'll take out all your test kits, make sure they're current, not ancient. If they're more than 12 months old, get rid of them. Oh, and also, I started to say this and I totally forgot where I was going with it because my brain is a noodle right now. If you haven't set up something in preparation for the death of a loved one, you totally should get them to put down their passwords and passcodes and stuff that matter to them and to you that you open in the event of their death. I know no one wants to leave that kind of stuff lying around because you don't want a bad guy to get it, right? But something should be in place. Just like I'm gonna have to set up something to where my son can get into the front door of the house and deal with everything in here, whether it's the tank, the business, the bank account, PayPal, whatever. Because it's so much harder to pick up pieces after someone's gone when you don't have any of their crucial information. And so if you have a certain password you put on your phone, make sure that your loved one knows where to find that in the worst case scenario. And then the same thing would go for social media. There's actually the ability to make or to assign someone as the legacy for your Facebook page. And so in the event of your loved one dying, you have to provide proof to Facebook that the person died. And then after you've done that, then you have the ability, I guess, to put a final post, and then their page becomes a in memoriam page where people can maybe reply to your comment, but I don't think anyone can just post to it willy-nilly for the rest of eons of time. But not being able to check into their email or to get into their phone or be able to get on their social media, it's really hard. And so I never saw that coming. None of this was predictable. Caitlin had her blood work done 3 weeks before her death, and my doctor, who was our doctor, actually looked at everything and said there's nothing in this that would have indicated anything. Nothing. And she said, so tell me about the last 2 weeks, which I did. And like I said, my guess was it was an aneurysm. And we'll see what the medical examiner ends up coming back with. But it was terrible, and it's going to be really hard to recover from this because no one will ever be her. She literally checked off all the boxes in my life, and that's why I waited for her. She was the one. All right, guys, I'm going to go, and I hope you guys have a good weekend.